Okay, so I've been rummaging through my storage and I found this old Rat pedal from the mid to late 80s. This is the version they made before they went high-tech, and by high-tech I mean they added an indicator light. There's one thing I can tell you about the Rat is that you always know when this thing is on. Anyways, I haven't used it for years. Thought it'd be fun to plug it in and see if it's something I'd buy all over again. Well, why don't you stay tuned and see if in fact that's something I do. If you want to discover an old Rat, then join me for this episode of I Don't Have a Band right now. Welcome to episode 36 of I Don't Have a Band. Hey there, I'm Dan, the self-proclaimed Lonely Rocker. Thanks for joining me for another episode. The time of the taping of this video, we're at the end of March 2020. So those of you watching this in the present time will understand we're all in the middle of a isolation period. So I've been stuck here in the home studio. Don't want to talk too much about what's going on in the world, but thought I would take an opportunity since I am stuck here and go through the studio, go through the storage. If any of you like me, you're just collecting gear over the years, and it's sometimes it's hard to part with it because you think you might just want to use it sometime. But the truth is a lot of things end up sitting in boxes and collecting dust. So I thought it would be a great opportunity to go looking through some of my old stuff and see if I can find some old gems that I haven't picked out in a long time and, review it all over again and see if it's something that I'd buy again if I didn't actually have it. So what we're going to look at today is the ProCo Rat. I picked this up sort of in the mid to late 80s. This model was made between 1986 and 1988. Soon after they went to this small form factor, the Rat went through a few different iterations, but this is when it was still made in Kalamazoo, Michigan, and these old tanks. To be honest, I was never a big fan of it at the time. I think it may have been my first distortion pedal, and played with it for a number of years, but as I started building my rig, it sort of fell off. As popular as this pedal was, and I think still is, the type of distortion that I got out of this wasn't really my flavor. I'm more into sort of classic rock tones, whether it be heavier, but more natural overdrive tones in that, where this is, you can create some divine destruction with this pedal. But you know what? I haven't used it in a long time, and I recently picked up the Two Notes Torpedo Capture 8. If you haven't seen that video, I did a full review. Look for a link to that video in the description below. But the idea that I've committed to my Marshall setup, which means it's not like I have a bunch of virtual amps I can choose from when I'm recording. I'm going to rely on the setup that I've sort of put together, and but utilizing pedals and different things, I can get different tones. So I want to see if this is something that maybe would be useful in my toolbox, maybe not. So for fun, why don't we take a look at a little history about the Rat pedal itself, and then I'll plug it in and see if I've got any newfound love for the ProCo Rat. The Rat was born in Kalamazoo, Michigan in the basement of the ProCo factory around 1978. The first units, never intended for mass production, consisted of an off-the-shelf project box and was handmade. It was limited to one prototype and 11 production models. The first version of the pedal that was manufactured in large numbers surfaced in 1979. 1981 saw the release of version 2 of the pedal. The design of the pedal was more streamlined, and a filter knob replaced the old tone knob. The small box Rat emerged around 1984 and is more reminiscent of the production pedal available today. It had the same circuitry with a smaller enclosure. The white and black logo was reversed in 1986 and is the version of the pedal I have. This evolved into the Rat 2 around 1988 with the addition of an LED indicator and some other cosmetic changes. A modern production version of this pedal is still available today. There have been a number of variations of this pedal made over the years, from a rack-mountable one to a pedal with 2 Rat circuits. In 2008, production moved to China, and the Rat is now manufactured by Nutric for ProCo sound. Unlike overdrives, which use soft clipping to achieve their distortion, like the Tube Screamer, the Rat delivers a hard, square wave clip. The Rat is a legendary distortion pedal that was quickly adopted by notable artists seeking an aggressive, heavy distortion tone and endless sustain. Okay, so I've got it plugged in. Just to give you a little basic setup here, I've got this Gibson Challenger. We're going P90 style for this one. That seems to be a bit of a theme over the last couple of videos, but we're going P90 style. We're going into the Rat pedal, and we're going into a Marshall JCM 900, and then we're using a Two Notes Capture 8 with the built-in speaker sim and coming right into the DAW. So that's it. No other trickery going on. I do have a preamp here and a compressor, sort of a front end for my system, but everything's sort of just kind of flat. And that's pretty much it. All right, so let's just kind of run through the pedal here. Here's the clean sound, so we're in the clean channel of the Marshall. Let's get the Rat on here. So we've got the distortion at 9 o'clock. Now, one thing that I actually remembered about this pedal is the filter knob, which is kind of your tone. It kind of works in reverse. In most distortion pedals, as you open up the tone, you get sort of a brighter sound, and if you want to roll off your tone, you kind of turn it down. But the Rat kind of works backwards that way. The distortion, if we turn it up a little bit here, I'm going to turn the filter off. So the filter is completely off right now. Put it at 12 o'clock. Put it all the way up. Now that distortion is not even at 12 o'clock yet. So this is quite the beast. Let's put the filter back. I'm going to keep it around noon, and we're going to turn the distortion just a little past 12 o'clock. Let's just keep cranking up that distortion. Wow, okay, let's dial that back a little bit. We'll get the filter up a little bit now. Well, that gives you a little bit of idea of what the pedal does on its own. Now, since my application is recording, I thought I've got a couple of old backing tracks. Thought I'll just sort of in real time just laid out a couple of tracks. I'm not going to do anything fancy with mixing, just to get a sense of really what this can do in the mix or on a track anyways. I'll try a couple of examples of the Rat against the backing track, and we'll see how that sounds. Well, that was a bit of a trip down memory lane for me. To be honest, now that I've had a chance to play with it all over again, it kind of reminded me why I ended up not using it a lot in the first place. However, I'm going to take a look at it a little differently this time. As I mentioned before, I was looking at one point at either getting a modeling system, just sort of expand the tones that I have here in the studio and be able to record at night so I'm not interrupting the family upstairs, or just stick with my rig. I've got my Marshall set up and then using a load box in DI and use IRs and but rely on my main system for tones. And that's the direction I decided to go with my 2 Notes Captor 8. So the downside of that is that I'm limited in this studio anyways to one amplifier. So to find other tones and things like that, I do have a number of overdrives and distortions and things like that. So the Rat pedal, while is really not my flavor for my main tone, I definitely could see a use for this. I mean, if I need something really aggressive or just something different, than, my standard overdrive sounds or the onboard Marshall distortion. So honestly, looking here at different options, like I said, it's going to come from pedals and tone shaping sort of the old fashioned way. It certainly doesn't hurt to have a few different flavors around the studio and pull them out as you need it. It's not going to suddenly become my main distortion sound by any stretch, but it's fun to own a little piece of history. So if I could get my hands on one today, would I buy it again? Yeah, I think I would. I don't think I'd spend an arm and a leg on it, but if I can get my hands on an original one, I mean, I don't have a new one here. It'd be interesting to compare this to the more recent production models, but certainly as a flavor here in the studio, yeah, the ProCo Rat, I think I'd buy it again. Anyways, hope you found that fun. I'm always looking here to create videos to help you create some ideas for your studio, offer some tips. I've got tons of reviews and all sorts of different things. Always love to hear your comments and feedback on anything I'm doing. If you've got any suggestions, please don't hesitate. Just drop it in the comments, and I certainly hope I'll see you again in the next video.
As always, if you have any questions, let me know in the comments. And please like, subscribe, and ring that bell to stay up to date. Remember, you don't need a band to rock and roll. There are a lot of great musical projects you can do by yourself, right from your own home. I hope to see you again next time.